Hi, I'm Father Joseph Mary, and welcome back to A Simple Word, where we reflect on the gospel for the coming Sunday. While some fears may seem extreme, a 2021 study by Chapman University surveyed what made Americans afraid or very afraid. At the top of the list was corrupt government officials, with 79% being afraid. Second was people I love dying, with 58%. Third was a loved one contracting COVID-19, with 58%. Fourth, people I love becoming seriously ill, with 57%. And finally, a widespread civil unrest, with 56%. A glaring, obvious theme in this study is that much of our fear centers around the suffering of those we love, especially through serious illness. This Sunday's gospel follows nicely from the baptism of Jesus that we heard a few Sundays ago. Following his baptism, the Holy Spirit drives Jesus into the wilderness, where he prays and fasts for 40 days. And upon returning, Jesus passes near the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and he calls his first disciples, Simon and Andrew, James and John. Together they journey along the coast to Capernaum, the home village of Simon and Andrew. It may well be that the two brothers were returning home to tell their families they were leaving to follow Jesus. Capernaum was right on the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee, a little fishing village of about 1,500 people. It's a small town where everybody knows everybody and everybody's business. This gospel gives us a glimpse of the relationship between Jesus and his disciples at a very early stage. After the teaching in the synagogue on the Sabbath, the disciples returned to the home of Simon for the main meal around noon. And they find Simon's mother-in-law in bed with a, quote, burning fever. This is a serious illness. So what do? They immediately go and tell Jesus. He's just spent an exhausting morning teaching and preaching, exorcising demons. But he comes at once. Now the Jewish Talmud had an elaborate cure for a burning fever. An iron knife was supposed to be tied by a braid of hair to a thorn bush for 3 consecutive days, after which a ritual formula was pronounced over the sick person. Jesus completely disregards Jewish convention, and he violates the Sabbath law, which forbids the healing of the sick on the Sabbath. Without a single word, Jesus lifts the woman up, and she's instantly healed. And she begins to wait on Jesus and his new disciples. This story tells us something very important about Jesus, and some things very important about discipleship. It's clear Jesus doesn't care a bit about popular convention or fancy ceremonial laws that get in the way. He cares about people. He cares about alleviating human suffering. He cares about revealing the Father's mercy. And this has to be our primary concern too. Liturgical law should be respected. Catechesis is vital. Canon law has its place. But none of these things should be primary. None of these things should ever come before people, especially the poor and the suffering. This gospel also tells us something about discipleship. Even at this early stage, the disciples had learned to take their troubles to Jesus. They didn't consult the Talmud or call for a local rabbi. They went right to Jesus. They trusted Jesus could help them. And upon her immediate healing, Simon's mother-in-law rises to serve. As disciples, we have to take everything to Jesus. We have to trust Jesus with our worst problems and our heaviest crosses. And we have to trust that Jesus, he will help us, even if that help doesn't come right away. But when he does help us, we have to remember that we've received in order to give. We've been healed in order to heal. We've been taught in order to teach. And we've been loved in order to love. And if we truly begin to live our discipleship with this commitment to authenticity, the world will respond. How do we know? What's next? The Jewish law forbade the carrying of a burden on the Sabbath. That again would have been to work. So the villagers had to wait until at least 3 stars were visible in the sky before the Sabbath was concluded. And once night had fallen, they carried their sick and their suffering to the doors of Simon's house. Literally, the whole town was at his doorstep. When we're authentic, people take notice. When we truly have what only God can give, people will come thronging because they'll see it and they'll want it too. God's love is intoxicating. I'm Father Joseph Mary, and thanks for listening to A Simple Word. If you found this reflection helpful, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.